Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, on PRConnectionRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian McKelly. We have a fantastic show planned out for you as we are going to be going over the top prospect in the Vegas Golden Knights organization, a guy you have on your screen right here, right now on Vegas Hockey Hub. We are going to discuss Brendan Brisson, who is currently playing in the AHL right now for the Henderson Silver Knights. And the reason why we're going to be focusing on him is because of an interesting conversation I had with someone recently. Now, recently, I had a show where I was talking about the big prospects, talking about the best players in the minor league system. I did a show recently where I recapped and spotlighted the best players in the minors for your Vegas Golden Knights. I talked about Braden Packle. I talked about Danny Chaka. I discussed, for example, defensemen like Lucas Cormier. Then you had, in the ECHL, Daniel Diamito. You had Brendan Gouet. There was a bunch of talent I discussed in that video, and I will leave a card up here so you can watch that video, that episode, if you want to go out and watch it. But a comment that someone left on that video was, "Where is Brendan Brisson? Why didn't you discuss Brendan Brisson?" So I actually planned on talking about him in a full-length video, going into an episode and really breaking down the 2020 first-round pick Vegas took him. So I really wanted to talk about how Brendan Brisson, he does have talent. He is someone who should be a good member of Vegas moving forward. But I wanted to break it down and talk about it for almost the entire show. I didn't just want to, go and talk about it for a few minutes like I did on that Monday show, where I discussed the best prospects and the best young talent Vegas had. So, with Brendan Brisson, I'm going to take you back to the beginning. I'm going to take you back when he was playing for the Chicago Steel of the USHL. So, before playing in the USHL, the United States Hockey League, he actually played for the Los Angeles Kings junior team. He did that for 2 seasons, and he played for the LA Junior Kings. He had 28 points in 43 games in 2014 and 24 points in 2015. He eventually moves on. He plays in the USHS, puts up 101 points in 55 games played in 2018. That was at the age of 15 years old. So in 2019, he goes to the Chicago Steel of the USHL. And in his one season playing in Chicago, he has 24 goals, 59 points, a plus 17 in 45 games played. And that same year, he commits to playing 2 years at University of Michigan. He signs on the dotted line. He is going to become a Michigan Wolverine and be part of one of the dynasties of college hockey, and that's out there in Michigan. After putting up all of those stellar numbers, and keep in mind, by the way, Brendan Brisson is from California. He was born in California. He played youth hockey in LA. And when he did his junior season in the United States Hockey League, he was also named to the first team All USHL and was even named USHL Rookie of the Year. So before heading into his college career at University of Michigan, he is going to get ready to get drafted. As a matter of fact, here's actually an interesting part that I actually wanted to discuss in a little bit of detail. Here is Brendan Brisson's draft grade heading into 2020 NHL draft. As you can see right here, here is what elite prospects had for Brendan Bryson in his grade heading into 2020. So keep in mind that you get graded from 1 to 10 according to Elite Prospect. So skating is 5.5. So that's kind of an average skating. He's an average skater. Shooting gets a 7 out of 10. And getting to see Brendan Bryson live in person out in Henderson, I can actually confirm that his shooting is pretty good. He's someone who can pass the puck around. He has been a solid contributor in up at that point. Passing was 7.5. Puck handling 7.5. Once again, alluding to the fact that yes, he is someone who can pass the puck around, create opportunities for his teammates, and someone who can put the puck in the back of the net. Hockey sense, aka hockey IQ, was a 7. And based off the way I watched Brendan Bryson play in Henderson, it actually does make sense that his hockey IQ would be around that level. He really shows that he could be a solid player. And then his physicality is 5.5, so kind of on the average scale there. So when you actually compare that, and they gave him a grade of A heading into 2020 NHL draft. So his positives and his pros is his passing, and his puck handling. His weaknesses is skating and being physical. Okay, so according to Elite Prospects, that was up until he gets drafted by Vegas. So in the 2020 draft, 29th overall, he gets selected by the Vegas Golden Knights and actually becomes one of their top prospects right away. So in his 2 years in between being with the Vegas Golden Knights and being drafted, here's actually what he did up to that point. He actually played with Team USA. He was actually part of the USA World Junior Championship, and he had 2 goals in 7 games in the World Junior Championships for Team USA. So for a guy that isn't even 20 years old yet to be representing Team USA in the World Junior Championship really shows you how talented Brendan Bryson really is. The fact that he put up 2 goals in the World Junior Championship in 2020 at the age of 19, while wearing number 19, that was a good moment for him. He then goes to University of Michigan, and for 2 seasons at University of Michigan, he put up 31 goals, 32 assists, for 63 points in Michigan. There's also the same guy who got to the playoffs with University of Michigan and helped University of Michigan be in the Frozen Four during his time period there. He also had he also ended up having 50 penalty minutes and a positive 27 while playing at University of Michigan. So he's had solid defensive numbers with his plus minus. He could put the puck in the back of the net, and he was somebody who could pass the puck around in University of Michigan, at Chicago, and even translated that when he was in juniors out there in LA. So Brendan Bryson, up to that point, at 20 years of age, had shown that he had an impressive resume in juniors. He showed an impressive resume in college hockey, and he showed an impressive level of awareness in the World Junior Championships playing for Team USA. So how would Brendan Bryson transition to the AHL? How would Brendan Bryson be able to play in the AHL for the Henderson Silver Knights? Because last season he had a trial run with Henderson. He played 9 games in the 2021 season for the Henderson Silver Knights, and in 9 games he had a trio of goals, 5 assists for 8 points, and a +1 for Henderson. So Brendan Bryson, in his first professional season in the majors, he has 8 points in 9 games. He almost averaged a point per game while in Henderson. And as someone who, once again, to give you some reference, I got to watch Brendan Bryson play at the Dollar Loan Center up in Henderson. And yes, he was rough. He had some mistakes as a 20-year-old, but the talent was there. The more you watch him play in Henderson and the more shifts and the more time he got to be on the ice, you could tell he had talent, and you could tell why Vegas wanted Brendan Brisson and why they drafted him 29th overall in 2020 NHL draft. So how did that translate to 2022? Okay, how does that translate to the 2022 NHL season? How is that going to translate to how the Vegas Golden Knights are going to look at him moving forward? Well, that one's actually going to be very simple because Brendan Brisson, so far in Henderson, so far in about 7 games for Henderson, he has had a single goal and he's had 2 penalty minutes so far in his young tenure with the Henderson Silver Knights. Brendan Brisson averaged around a point per game in his first season with the Henderson Silver Knights. So, what Vegas is going to expect from Brendan Brisson, what Vegas management, what Vegas executives, what the coaching staff, what the people in Henderson are going to be watching out for, can Brendan Brisson continue the momentum that he had in his first glimpse of professional hockey in 2021? Like I said, for anyone who hadn't watched the show before, in his first 9 games in Henderson that he had in the 2021-2022 season, he averaged not 8 points in 9 games. Okay, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points, and a +1 in 9 games for Henderson. So what Vegas is going to expect and what Henderson is going to need is to see if Brendan Brisson can become a good player up at the next level. And what they're going to want to see from him is someone who can average around a point per game in the AHL. What Vegas is going to be looking for is, can he score 15 to 20 goals in Henderson this season? Can he get 15 to 20 assists in Henderson? What about his plus minus? If he is someone who can continue his defensive reliability, which was having a positive plus minus in the USHL, having a positive plus minus at University of Michigan, and having a positive plus minus in his first season in the AHL. If Brendan Brisson can continue to show momentum and continue to show all of the good impact he has had early in his career, that's what Vegas is going to be focusing on. Now, one aspect that I want people to understand, and trust me when I say I really want to see how Brendan Brisson is going to perform at the next level. Because, like I said, he is about, you know, like 7.75. I think that's the points per game, about 0.75. And when it comes to Brendan Brisson, I really compare his career and I look at it and go, all right, you're this top prospect. You're a guy that so many people are going to be counting on. And with you being 6 foot, 185 pounds, you're not going to be a juggernaut. You're not going to be 6'5", 240 pounds. You're not going to be small either, like 5'8", 5'9", 160 pounds. What Brendan Brisson is going to need to do is to show people if he can transition to the next level in the NHL. Because there are certain prospects in the NHL alongside Brendan Brisson who have been in the NHL and they have made a drastic impact in the league. Right? People who are around the same level as Brendan Brisson. Keep in mind that Owen Powers for the Buffalo Sabres, he is the #1 prospect in all of hockey out there in Buffalo. And when you actually stop and watch Owen Power, not only has he been a really good player up to this point in his career. Owen Power, at 19 years of age, he is someone in his second season playing professional hockey. He is already playing for the Buffalo Sabres. He already has 5 points in the NHL, two of them being goals. How about someone like Quentin Byfield? Who Quentin Byfield for the LA Kings is someone who I believe can show a lot of talent and a lot of good ideas out there in Las Vegas. But who are some prospects that are around the same level as Brendan Brisson? Because according to NHL.com, Brendan Brisson is ranked 35th in terms of top prospects. He is the number one prospect for Vegas. He is 35th overall in the NHL. So how about we just compare the two prospects in front of him and compare the two prospects behind him and see where he is compared to them up to this point. So the first one is Los Angeles Kings Alex Turquette. Now, this is a guy who's playing for the LA Kings, and his career has actually been a little bit interesting. It actually could be a good comparison to Brendan Brisson, because right now he is 21 years old, came from the same draft class and around the same area that Brendan Brisson did, and he had 18 points in 27 games with the Ontario region, and before that had 21 points in 32 games in Ontario. However, the one thing that's holding him back is that he's had 0 points in 8 games in the NHL. So we haven't seen what he could do in the NHL, but we know what he can do in the AHL. So that's the first person above him, Alex Turquette. Then you got Jake Neighbors, for example, someone who currently is playing games in the NHL, someone who actually is a little bit younger than what Brendan Brisson is. He's 20 years old and was drafted 2 picks before Brendan Brisson was. And in 13 games for St. Louis, he has had 2 goals and he's had 3 points in his career with the St. Louis Blues. So he has not really shown a lot when it comes to transitioning to the professionals. And as a matter of fact, he's only had 21 points in professional hockey up to this point. So Jake Neighbors, who is in the same draft class as Brendan Brisson, has actually not put up as much numbers as Brendan Brisson has done in the AHL. How about Philippe Broberg, who is the prospect right behind him when it comes to that list? Now, Philip Broberg is actually with the Edmonton Oilers, and with him playing in the AHL in the same league as Brendan Brisson, his stats are actually a very interesting note because in 31 games in the AHL, he has had 23 points, 4 goals, and a plus 14. So Broberg could maybe have a little bit of a season like Brendan Brisson is supposed to have. Maybe Brendan Brisson could put up some numbers along the same end as Philip Broberg and as Alex Turcotte. And then the last person who's around him is actually from the Minnesota Wild, and that's Alan Addison. Now, Addison with the Minnesota Wild, the main difference with him is going to be that he has played more games up to this point out of anybody there, and he is actually someone who's played more NHL games than almost everybody on that list combined. So far, Addison, in 6 games this season, has had 6 points in 6 games. He's averaging a point per game. The year before, he had 4 points in 15 games. So Addison has had some good momentum. It's had some points. However, he is someone that I look at and go, you know what? He could be someone that you could say, I hope Brendan Brisson is actually transitioning to and maybe actually put up some of those numbers. Now, Brendan Brisson, like I mentioned before, put up over 60 points in 2 seasons with University of Michigan. He is entering his second season as a professional hockey player for the Vegas Golden Knights. And with him being a smart player, being someone who can, be rational and someone who can change up the speed and momentum of the game, and someone who can read plays very well. His hockey IQ is very good at the age of 20. Brennan Brisson is someone that the Vegas Golden Knights are going to hope can join the roster someday. And if he has a strong, successful season in the AHL, he should be getting an NHL roster of promotion by the end of the year. As a matter of fact, I'm going to call it right here, right now. And by April, by May, don't be surprised if Brendan Brisson joins the Vegas Golden Knights. Don't be surprised if this guy right here, Brendan Brisson, if he does what I believe he's going to do, and that is build momentum and build solid performances in Henderson, and he ends up, putting some pucks in the back of the net, help, his hockey IQ keeps getting better and better. He keeps improving at the AHL level. He eventually will get a promotion to the NHL, and I say by April or May, around the time the trade deadline is over, Brendan Brisson could be on the bottom six playing for your Vegas Golden Knights. Brendan Brisson, at the age of 21, will be playing alongside Michael Amadio, Phil Kessel, Nick Waugh. He is someone that I truly believe will be a Vegas Golden Knight by the end of the year. Him being their number one prospect also has a lot to do with it. Because anyone who watches hockey, anyone who watches the NHL will know that top prospects get put into action a lot late into the season. About 20 to 25 games left in the year, that's when you will see top prospects get what I like to call their cup of coffee in the NHL. Top prospects will get a chance to play Major League Hockey. The AHL players get to go to the NHL and play in the NHL for a little bit of time, for a limited amount of time. And I can see that happening with Brendan Brisson. Now, I saw somebody ask this question, so I will answer it on this show now. We have about 5 minutes left in the show. Somebody asked, all right, Brendan Brisson is the number one ranked prospect for the Vegas Golden Knights. He is 35th out of the top 100 prospects in the NHL, according to NHL.com. But is there any Golden Knights that are also on the top 100 outside of Brendan Brisson? Absolutely there is, and I'll tell you exactly where they are. Vegas's number 2 prospect, defenseman Lucas Cormier, is ranked 65th. The 20-year-old defenseman. He's playing in the AHL, first season playing professional hockey, and if injuries occur, he might be somebody that joins the Vegas Golden Knights in that last 20 to 25 games if he does incredibly well in the AHL. That's their number 2 prospect, and that is Lucas Cormier. And then the third and last prospect on there from the Vegas Golden Knights, you actually end up having him towards the back end of it, and that is Vegas Golden Knights first round pick, Zach Dean. So Zach Dean, he's on that list. Like I said, Lucas Cormier, Brendan Brisson. There's a lot of good prospects the Vegas Golden Knights have in their system right now. So Brendan Brisson, 35th overall out of all the people there. You have Lucas Cormier, who's 65th overall, and then you have Caden Korczak, who is a defenseman, was taken in the 2019 NHL draft, playing for Henderson right now. He is projected to go to the NHL at some point in the 2022-2023 NHL season. He is their third highest ranked prospect. You have got at the fourth top prospect is Pavel Dorofeyev, and he is playing in the Henderson Silver Knights right now. Had a cup of coffee in the NHL last year. He could also join the Vegas Golden Knights at some point in 2022, 2023. And then to round it out, the fifth and final top prospect is forward Ivan Morzov, who was drafted in the 2018 NHL draft, just came over from the KHL to join the Henderson Silver Knights. He will probably stay in North America for 1 year, 2 years, and then he will be in the NHL at some point. So the top five prospects involving the Vegas Golden Knights. Number one, Brendan Brisson, their 2020 first round pick, playing in Henderson right now. Number two, defenseman Lucas Cormier. He was selected in the 2020 draft immediately after Brendan Brisson. He is playing in Henderson. Their third top prospect is defenseman Keaton Korczak. He's playing in Henderson right now. He was their second round pick in 2019. Fourth was Pavel Dorofeyev, and he was selected in the 2019 NHL draft. He's currently playing for Henderson. And then their fifth top prospect in Las Vegas is Ivan Morzov, who was selected in the 2018 NHL draft, currently playing in Henderson. So, moral of the story is that your top five prospects for Vegas, two of them are ranked in the top 100. Your top five prospects, three of them are defensemen, and two of them are highly ranked forwards for the Vegas Golden Knights. And four of the five top prospects are going to be playing for Vegas at some point this year and are projected to be part of the Vegas Golden Knights for the long-term future. And that is in Korczak, Dorofeyev, Cormier, and Brisson. So we have about 2 minutes left here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I just wanted to talk about Brendan Brisson and why I believe he is a future part of the Vegas Golden Knights. Wanted to really cover his part with the Vegas Golden Knights because Brendan Brisson, he is going to be a member of Vegas. It's not if, but when he is going to be a member of Vegas. And when the day comes that Brendan Brisson makes his NHL debut for Vegas, it is going to be a moment that some people are going to remember. Because Brendan Brisson has that it factor. He has certain characteristics that can carry over to the NHL. And since we're talking about top prospects right now, it's actually interesting when you compare the year two of the prospects for the Vegas Golden Knights, because their top prospect was really fascinating when you actually sit back and examine it. Because, man, there was so many great players who were part of the Vegas Golden Knights in year one. As a matter of fact, we're going to cover that 2017 NHL draft, looking back at the Vegas Golden Knights who they selected. But just to go back in time, their number one ranked prospect in their 2018 was defenseman Eric Brandstrom. Number two was center Nick Suzuki. Third was center Cody Glass. Fourth was defenseman Nick Hague. And fifth was center Ben Jones. So it's kind of interesting looking back at their top prospects from 4 years ago and comparing it to 2022. One of those guys has turned into an all-star and a captain in Montreal, in Nick Suzuki. Eric Brandstrom is playing in Ottawa on their bottom six. Cody Glass playing on the bottom six in Nashville. Nicholas Hague is on the bottom defensive pairing in Vegas. And Ben Jones is someone that unfortunately did not really blossom to what a lot of people thought he was going to be, and that was being an NHL level player as a center. So, Ben Jones is the only one that really didn't get to the NHL. But the rest of them, the rest of the players that Vegas had as their top five prospects from 2018, they have actually done pretty good heading up to this point. So this was looking at Brendan Brisson and talking about what he could do for Vegas. I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. Follow us on social media at Vegas Hockey Hub. And until next time, go watch hockey, support your minor league hockey teams, and go Knights.